So I got my suitcase here. It's so full that it's probably gonna explode, kind of like a bomb. Probably cause a tragedy. And I'm heading to the airport. Arrived at everyone's favorite place, the San Diego airport. It's everybody's favorite place. Queuing up, and it seems like this ride's a walk-on, so that's pretty cool. The loose article policy on this ride is really quite strange. They make sure they check everything you have, but then they just let you take it in. It's weird. Like, usually when you put metal detectors on a ride, they don't want you to bring your loose articles onto the ride. It's to prevent you from bringing anything onto the ride. But they don't have lockers or nothing. It's just bring it all on, so I'm a little confused why they have such high security. It's a little strange. Someone's about to party. So in case you haven't figured out, we're going at the brand new ride at the theme park San Diego Airport.
We're not doing that bit again.
What? Oh. Look, it's SeaWorld San Diego. You can see they're constructing Wild Arctic right now. Huh. Is that a tunnel? Looks cool. Flight montage is over, so let's start the video. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Amusement Adventures, the series where I document my day at a park, reviewing the rides I rode, the food I ate, and even the journey to get there. I will cover it all, and in this episode, I'm in the gorgeous state of Oregon and visiting the legendary Enchanted Forest, one of the most unique parks in all of America. But before I begin the journey into this strange and bizarre theme park, let me tell you a little bit of history of how this park came to be. In the 1960s, a man by the name of Roger Tofty had a dream to build his own theme park. Even though he had very little money, he decided to purchase 20 acres of land right off I-5 for a total of $4,000 in 1964. He invested all his money into building a storybook theme park, slowly building it one bag of concrete at a time. Throughout the process of building the park, Roger was teased and bullied by many doubters, including his own friends and coworkers, frequently getting asked about what he was doing on Idiot Hill. But through it all, he continued to work on the park in his spare time, and 7 years later, in August of 1971, he had completed enough to open the park. Through the years, the family kept adding hand-built rides and attractions, and it eventually grew to become the extremely beloved and popular tourist destination it is today, even surviving the hardships of 2020 and early 2021, with over 8,000 people chipping in to help keep the park in operation for all the guests who would visit it in the future, such as me. But first, I had to roll out of bed so I could get ready for the crazy day that was to come. couple days now. Done quite a few cool things, but today we are going to Enchanted Forest and Oaks Park, which is super exciting. I'm staying at my grandparents right now, so I'm going with them and my cousins. So I went from one grandparent's house to the other, and Tyler's here. Morning. I started my morning like I usually do and took a shower. Ooh, magic time jump. I also brushed my teeth. Then I headed downstairs to make a sandwich to bring for lunch. You see, Enchanted Forest not only allows you to bring your own food, they actually recommend it, as their food operations are limited due to staffing. I also had some French toast prepared by my grandma for breakfast, so after I finished that, and my aunt and little cousins who were going to the park with us arrived at my grandparents' house, all that was left to do was grab everyone's favorite pine cone, Gurstlaure the Coaster Cone, slip on my shoes, and step outside. Absolutely beautiful day outside today. Oregon is just amazing. It really is. It's one of my favorite places to visit and to drive through, which we were about to do, as I hopped into the car to begin the journey to the park. Of driving, we could see the road sign for the park ahead of us, and we pulled into the parking lot of this magical fantasy park. And here we are. There's the highway. Magic Mountain's actually right off this highway, just a little bit down there, not too far. Walking up to the entrance of this park from the parking lot, I quickly realized just how quaint it was. There were 2 entrance booths and just 1 exit. Entering the park, the first thing you see is a castle. And you also see a sign that says, "Start at the castle and follow the trail." A huge portion of this park is this trail, which will take you past a bunch of handmade scenes showing off all sorts of fairy tales, many of which you can interact with. You start by walking through the castle. Florida dog. Well, that's not creepy at all. Then you will begin to walk up the trail, passing many scenes depicting fairy tales and nursery rhymes like Humpty Dumpty, Little Miss Muffet,
Spider, huh? It's a Spider-Man.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can.
Hansel and Gretel, Alice in Wonderland.
I am not crawling in there. What's the point of the maze if there's... Oh, it's not good instructions, I see.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
I would actually really recommend this place. It's really quite cool. The fact that it was built by one dude is also pretty much endlessly impressive. It's really something quite special, I would say. Yeah, I'm gonna enter the Seven Dwarfs mine, I guess. Many more. All these scenes are the perfect mix of charming and creepy, and many are interactable with mazes and slides and other interesting walkthrough elements. It's an awesome little walkthrough for kids, as it's mostly like a really well-made playground themed to different fairy tales. And I personally just found it endlessly impressive and charming, considering it was all hand-built by one man and his family. This trail is honestly the majority of the park. The other areas where the rides are located mainly in the back corner where the trail drops you off. This trail is really an attraction unto itself, which is why I talked about it in the review format and why I'm going to rate it. And that rating is a 7.5 out of 10. It's an absolute wonderland for kids. I mean, you literally walk through Wonderland.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
And the adults will also get a kick out of how kinda creepy but strangely charming the trail is. Once we completed the trail, we were spit out into another area of the park, known as Toftyville. This western-themed area is really well made, and I immediately noticed the similarities it had to other places I had been. This little western town area is very much giving me massive Silver Dollar City vibes, but also huge ghost town at Knott's vibes. This is a really well-done little area. In the gift shop here, they have a little movie showing the park's history. They have a little museum that has a lot of trinkets from the park's history. It's a really well done area. I wonder what's in here. Nothing, I guess, except for an absolutely wonky floor.
Why is it? Oh, I don't like that.
Similar to the trail, it had lots of nooks and crannies with interactable tunnels and peek-ins, which my little cousins proceeded to participate in. There was even a little shooting game where I discovered my grandpa is an absolute legend with a gun. After walking through the charming village of Toftyville, we entered the back corner of the park, where basically all the rides are. So we decided to spend 5 tickets on our first ride. You see, at Enchanted Forest, you not only have to pay for admission, but you also have to pay for ride tickets to do the attractions. The 3 big rides each cost 5 tickets to ride, and each ticket is $1. So, after spending $15 purchasing tickets for the rides, we hopped in line for the first ride of the day, the Challenge of Mondor. Challenge of Mondor's queue is really short. It's a small series of switchbacks inside a building. The ride itself is actually a trackless shooting dark ride. The cars are very similar to other rides of this type, with a plastic bench, a simple lap bar, and a holder for your blasters. Once you board these trains, you are sent off to receive your quest from the Wizard Mondor. The ride begins by rounding the corner and coming face to face with the wizard himself, who instructs you to go and vanquish the dark creatures of the forest by shooting their blue medallions where their evil power resides.
At last you come. The good little goblins need your help to save them from the monsters of the dark. Aim at their blue medallions where the evil power is stored. The challenge is on. Go to your destiny.
The rest of the ride consists of various scenes where you are shooting at various monsters. This ride is so incredibly charming, it's not even funny. Plus, it also looks good, not tacky. I love how it uses practical sets instead of just a bunch of screens, and I love how dark it gets. There are some scenes in this ride that are really quite freaky, like the scene with the creepy hooded, almost demonic figure. This ride is an absolute blast, literally. It's so well done, and honestly, it's my favorite shooting dark ride I've ridden. That's right, this little shooting dark ride at this hand-built theme park, with hand-built sets and animatronic, beats out any shooting dark ride that I've done anywhere else, including the ones at Disneyland. The creepy hand-built animatronics really set the mood for this ride and add so much to the overall atmosphere. Challenge of Mondor deserves an 8 out of 10. To think that a park this small can have a trackless dark ride that cool is pretty insane. The theming on that ride was really good. That's one of the better dark rides I've done in a while. I'll have to think about it. It might be the best shooting dark ride I've done. Seriously, it's actually crazy. It's definitely up there with fairytales and Toy Story Mania and Buzz Lightyear and those. It's really, really good. After we got off Challenge of Mondor, we walked right across the midway and up to our next ride that was conveniently located right there. A ride that has to be one of the most unique coasters on the entire planet. A ride known as Ice Mountain Bobsleds. Ice Mountain Bobsled's queue consists almost entirely of a ramp leading up to the station. The station is a simple roof building against the side of a man-made mountain. Where this coaster gets really unique is the trains. They can fit 1 or 2 people, and they really don't have a restraint. You simply sit in the padded cars, and then a roof comes down over the car. That's right, these coaster cars are fully enclosed with a plexiglass roof, with air holes to breathe and to feel the wind during the coaster. The ride begins with a lift hill up into the mountain. It's slow and clackety. Once you get to the top, you round a corner into the mountain and enter an ice cave. You will pass a tacky but charming animatronic of a Yeti before going through some straight track through the cave, and traversing another turn into some more straight track into another turn, and finally exiting the mountain. You then descend down a shallow drop that reminds me of the angled slope leading into Revolution's loop. You then hit a wide descending turn that has faint laterals and picks up speed as it goes along. You also pass through a cave that gives a decent head chopper. You then head through another turn, giving solid laterals and getting sharper as it goes. You get really close to the trees, and this whole ride really feels like you're flying through the woods. You enter some more angled straight track that's also banked a bit to the right, and passes under an overhang in the mountain that gives a good head chopper. The transition, though, that happens as you pass under the overhang is by far the jankiest part of the ride. It really shakes you about. You then pop up into a very aggressive mid-course that's almost as aggressive as Goliath's. Almost.
The focus is obliterated on impact.
Popping up into this mid-course, my brother tells me you get a decent pop of air in the front car. After the mid-course brake run, the train travels another long descending turn through the trees, picking up speed and giving good laterals. You then dip down into a little valley. In the back, you get a bit of a floaty feeling. You then rise and quickly level off into another turn, once again giving faint laterals and then dropping down into a sudden drop that's also banked to the right. And in the back, this drop gives a surprising and really quite sudden jolt of ejector, and is, in my opinion, the best moment on the coaster. This drop leads into yet another sweeping turn with good speed and good laterals. This turn is almost more of a massive helix that lasts for almost 11 seconds. This helix leads into the ride's second lift hill. Just like the first, this lift hill is quite slow. It serves to take you back up to the level of the station since you have been working your way down a hill since the beginning of the ride. Once you reach the top, you traverse a turn with faint laterals into some slightly wonky descending straight track, and into a bunny hill with a faint stomach floating feeling. Descending down the bunny hill, you pass through a cave that has got to be the closest head chopper I have ever experienced. The clearance literally looks like it's about an inch from the plexiglass roof, and I'm convinced it's the main reason why it's there in the first place. After this absolutely mental head chopper, you hit some brakes and slowly crawl through a wide turn with a couple little ups and downs before plowing into the station and coming to a stop there, ending your incredibly strange ride on Ice Mountain bobsleds. This ride is so unique. It tracks similarly to the Matterhorn or a mine train, and honestly the best way I can describe it using rides I have ridden is a cross between Matterhorn and Thunderation at Silver Dollar City, with track work, theme, and ride vehicles coming from Matterhorn, and the terrain and traveling through the woods aspect coming from Thunderation. This ride is honestly quite fun for what it is, and like this park as a whole, it's incredibly charming. It's a ride that all ages can enjoy, even my little cousins loved it. It's janky though, and it will toss you around a little bit. At the end of the day, Ice Mountain Bobsled scores a 6 out of 10.
So Ice Mountain Bobsleds is almost exactly how I expected. It was really quite interesting. It was janky, but it was also pretty fun, and it was a very unique ride, that's for sure. There was actually one moment where the sort of drop, where in the back row, which was where I was sitting, you actually do get a decent pop of airtime. It's not much, but it's a little bit, and it's actually pretty cool. But that's really the only part of the ride where you get any sort of airtime, is that one moment. Other than that, it's pretty tame, and it's a lot of turns. I love how it passes in and out of the mountain. That's super neat. It's very janky, but it's really cool.
After Ice Mountain Bobsled, we decided to head up a short trail to the entrance of the final ride we would be doing. A ride that is curiously classified as a coaster by RCDB, but at its face looks more like a log flume. A ride known as Big Timber Log Ride. Big Timber Log Ride's queue is a ramp and then 2 switchbacks inside the station building that gives fantastic views of the drop and splashdown. The splashdown is really quite enormous, and it's a bit intimidating when standing in line. The cars are exactly like most log flumes, a log with a bench where people can sit. And once you are seated in these logs, the ride begins. The ride starts with a turnaround flume section into a chain lift taking you up into the sawmill. This sawmill reminds me of a slightly more tacky version of the sawmill on Timber Mountain Log Ride. After this sawmill, you pass through a tranquil, scenic flume section through the forest and past some western facades. You then reach a quick drop where the drop itself does not have any force, but the resulting splashdown does result in you getting a bit wet. You then travel through another tranquil flume section before being pulled up by another chain lift, not into another flume section, but into coaster track. You then take a quick left-hand turn before dropping down into a valley and rising up. This little coaster section has good speed and gives a bit of a floaty sensation in the back on the drop, and people in the front get a little jolt upwards as they level off. This section right here is what makes this ride technically a coaster, and if you're wondering, yes, I did count this ride as a credit, which is actually a bit controversial. Some bigger coaster YouTubers say this is definitely a log flume, which it is. It's a log flume with a coaster section, exactly like rides like Journey to Atlantis at the SeaWorld parks. If you count those rides as credits, you should also count this ride too. The credit is for the roller coaster section of the flume. If a ride has a clear coaster section, which this valley definitely is, then it counts as a credit. That's just the way I see it. After you level out, you take a right-hand turn and descend down the ride's final drop. This drop is actually quite good. It feels fast, and you get a faint stomach-dropping feeling going down, though you don't actually get any lift out of your seat at all. And the resulting splashdown is absolutely massive. You will get quite wet on this log ride. The ride then ends with one final flume turn back into the station. This is a very good ride that I would put in a similar category as Journey to Atlantis at SeaWorld San Diego. In fact, I rank it just 3 spots behind Journey to Atlantis. This ride is so charming. The peaceful flume sections through the forest are lovely, and the coaster section and the final drop add some nice family-friendly thrills. However, this ride is a really tough one to rank, considering I have given ranks to both log flumes and coasters in this series, and this ride does blur the line between the two more than any other ride I've been on, since it really is both. So to honor the fact that this ride is both a coaster and a log flume, I'm gonna give this ride 2 numbers, one ranking it as a log flume and another ranking it as a coaster. The coaster rating for this ride is a 6 out of 10, a slightly thrilling coaster that's wonderful for the whole family. However, this ride's log flume ranking is quite a bit higher, at a solid 8 out of 10, considering it's actually one of the better log flumes I have ridden, with its fun, peaceful flume sections being broken up perfectly by little moments of thrills coming together to make the perfect ride for the whole family. Averaging out the 2 scores, you get about a 7 for this ride overall. In my actual credits ranking, this ride is ranked exclusively by its coaster score, because my credits ranking is about ranking coasters, not log flumes. This ride is by far the most challenging ride I've had to rank in the entirety of Amusement Adventures, but I think I wound up going about it in a decent way.
So that was not that wet. Just kidding, I'm soaked. It definitely is a roller coaster log flume hybrid. It's not just a roller coaster, but I'm still comfortable counting it as a credit because the chain lift makes it feel more like a roller coaster than if it was one of those conveyor belt lifts you often see on log flumes, and that one section that is the reason it's counted as a coaster on RCDB really does feel like a roller coaster, and definitely is. So it's definitely a log flume with a roller coaster section, which I think still counts as a credit. So I am gonna count that as a credit.
This ride being so hard to rank just goes to show how unique this park really is, and after we got off the log ride, we kept exploring it. We went and saw a really small but neat indoor water show, and then Kyler and I spent the last of our tickets and went on the log ride one more time because we both enjoyed it so much. And once we had done that, we were really finished at the park, so we headed to the gift shop so I could pick up this hat, after which we walked down to the entrance of the park and exited this wood of handmade enchantment back into the real world. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of Amusement Adventures. If you thought, hey, this video was a lot shorter than other Amusement Adventures episodes, well, then you're right. Enchanted Forest is a very small park and there's not a lot to cover. That's why originally this was planned to be a double episode where we also visited Oaks Park in Portland, Oregon. But when we got there, I found out that Adrenaline Peak, a Gurstlaure Eurofighter that is the main reason I and many other roller coaster enthusiasts want to visit the park, was closed.
So the literal reason we drove to Oaks Park here is freaking closed today. Adrenaline Peak is not operating, which means I won't be able to ride it until literally whenever I come back to Oregon, which probably won't be at least until the fall, and it probably won't be open unless I come like at the end of August. Does this mean I have to schedule a trip up here like right after summer already?
I was very sad, and of course Gurstlaure was really upset that he could not ride a Gurstlaure, but in the end we decided to skip Oaks Park, thus making this video a bit shorter than was originally planned to be. But don't worry, I will visit Oaks Park in a future episode at some point. But in the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe if you want to. Also, be sure to leave a comment. I love hearing your guys' thoughts on these videos. I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful day, and I will see you all next time.